Is there anything I can do for you? We approached the archway leading back through the campus to the street, but he stopped me before I could join the mill of students passing through the arch. There is something, Abdullah began, but he closed his mouth firmly again, breathing hard through his nose. Sanjay has forbidden us from befriending you, or contacting you, for any reason other than company business. I see. You understand what this means? I guess so. It means that the next time we meet openly, Sanjay will be dead. What? Be confident and unafraid, he said, hugging me fiercely, and then holding me in his outstretched arms, as solid as a doorjamb. You have eyes watching you. You got that right. No, I mean that I have paid some eyes to watch you, for some time, he said patiently. You have? Who? The cycle killers. You paid homicidal maniacs to watch out for me? I did. That's very thoughtful. And expensive. Maniacs don't come cheap. You are right. I took some money from Khalid's treasure to pay for it. How did Khalid feel about that? He agreed. My feeling is that the only way I can lure him back to Bombay and his true destiny is to bring his treasure from the mountain to the city, one piece at a time. You're kidding, right? He looked me up and down, profoundly offended. I never make jokes. You do, too, I laughed. You just don't know you do. You're a funny guy, Abdullah. I am? He asked, grimacing. You hired homicidal maniacs to protect me. You're a funny guy, Abdullah. Lisa always laughed when she was with you, remember? Lisa. He looked across the fields, the muscles in his jaw rippling, although his eyes were perfectly still. University students were playing cricket, kicking footballs, sitting in groups, doing cartwheels, and dancing for no reason. Lisa. You were her rocky brother, I said. She never told me. Big changes are coming, Abdullah said, finding my eyes. The next time you see me, perhaps it will be at my funeral. Kiss me as a brother, and pray that Allah forgives my sins. He kissed my cheek, whispered goodbye, and slipped gracefully into the stream of students flowing through the arch. The fields, surrounded by the long, speared fence, seemed like a vast green net, cast by the sun to catch brilliant young minds. My eyes searched for Vincent and Ranveer, in the far corner of the park, but I couldn't find them. Abdullah was already gone when I reached my bike. It was high noon, and he didn't want to explain being seen with me. I wondered when, and how, I'd ever see him again. I rode back to the Sassoon dock area, and Vikrant's metal shop. I presented the renowned knife maker with the two halves of the sword willed to me by Kotterbai. Vikrant's bargaining system was to begin with the cheapest solution, sell you on it, and then expose the fatal flaw in the cheapest option. That, of course, led to the next cheapest option, the next hard sell, the next fatal flaw, and the next option, and the next fatal flaw. I'd tried over the years to get Vikrant to cut straight to the very expensive option with zero fatal flaws, but unfortunately that wasn't an option. Do we have to do the option thing again, Vikrant? Can't you just gimme the deluxe deal now? I really don't give a shit how much it costs. And it's really irritating, man. As in everything else in life, the knife maker said, there's a right way and a wrong way to be irritating. Indeed. Me, for example, I'm professionally irritating. My irritating goes with the territory. But you're irritating without any reason at all. No, I'm not. You're irritating me now, even as we speak. Fuck you, Vikrant. Are you gonna fix the sword, or not? He studied the weapon for some time, trying not to smile. I'll do it, he said. But only if I can fix it my own way. The hilt has a fatal flaw. A third-rate option. Great. Go ahead. No, he said, holding the sword in his upturned palms. You must understand. If I fix it my way, it will never break, and it will be a partner with time, but it will not be the same sword that Kotterbai's ancestors carried into battle. It will look different, and it will feel different. The soul of it will be different. I see. Do you want to preserve history? The knife maker asked, allowing himself a smile, or do you want history to preserve you? Funny guy, Vikrant. I want the sword to last. It's like a trust, and I can't be sure that the next guy will have it repaired if it breaks again. Do the deluxe, Vikrant. Make her last forever, and give her a makeover, but keep her under wraps until you're finished, okay? It makes me sad. The sword, or the trust? Both. Thick, Shantaram. Okay, and thanks for the message you sent through Didier about Lisa. Meant a lot. She was a nice girl, He sighed, waving goodbye. Gone to a better place, man. A better place, I smiled, thinking it strange that we can think of any life as better than the life we're living. I avoided better places, and spent the long day and evening doing the rounds of currency dealers and touts, from the fountain to the point to the mangroves in Colaba Back Bay. I listened to Chinese whispered gangster gossip up and down the strip, made notes on all the money changers' tallies and estimates, checked them against Didier's notes, found out who the principal predators were, which restaurants favored us and which banned us, how often the cops demanded money, which men could be trusted, which girls couldn't be trusted, which shops were fronts for other businesses, and how much each square foot of black market footpath in Colaba cost. Crime does pay, of course, otherwise nobody would do it. Crime usually pays faster, if not better, than Wall Street. But Wall Street has the cops. And the cops were my last stop before visiting the slum, to check on Diva and Naveen. Lightning Dilip gestured toward a chair when I walked into his office. "Don't sit in the fucking chair," he said. "What the fuck do you want?" He was looking me over, remembering the last beating he'd given me, hoping for a limp. "Lightning G," I began politely. "I just want to know if I can still bribe you, now that I'm freelancing, or if I have to go to Sub-Inspector Pottle. I'm hoping for you, because the sub-inspector can be a real pain in the ass. But if you tell him that, I'll deny it." The constables laughed. Lightning Dilip glared at them. "Throw this motherfucker in the under barrack," he said to the cops, lounging in the doorway. "And kick his head sideways." They stopped laughing and moved toward me. "Just kidding," Lightning laughed, holding up a hand to stop his men. "Just kidding." The cops laughed. I laughed, too. It was pretty funny, in its own way. 5%, I said. 7.5, Lightning shot back. "And I'll give you a chair to sit in, next time you visit the under barrack." The cops laughed. I laughed, too, because I would have given him 10%. "Done. You drive a hard bargain, Lightning G. You didn't marry a Marwari wife for nothing. The Marwaris are trading people from Rajasthan, in northern India. They have a reputation for shrewd business and sharp deal-making. Lightning Dilip's Marwari wife had a reputation for spending money faster than lightning could beat it from his victims." He looked at me, tasting the mention of his wife without pleasure. His lip curled. Every sadist has a sadist in the shadows. When you know who it is, just the mention of the name is enough. "Get out of here." "Thank you, Sergeant G," I said. I walked past the cops who'd chained and kicked me weeks before. They smiled and nodded good-naturedly. That was pretty funny too, in its own way. Chapter 50. I parked outside the slum and made my way to Johnny's house. He wasn't there, so I went to the adjoining huts being used by Naveen and Diva. I heard them, as usual, before I saw them. "Do you know what a woman has to do to take a shit around here?" Diva demanded, as I walked into the little clear space in front of their huts. "Wow, that was a long conversation," I said. "Weren't you on that last time?" "Do you know, Mr. Karab Dunda Shantaram?" she demanded, using the term for dirty business. "I do. I used to live here. And it ain't right." "Damn right, it's not right," Diva said, turning from me to poke Naveen in the chest. "A woman can't shit in the daytime, for example." There were several people in the group. Naveen and Didier were standing in front of Naveen's hut. Diva was with Johnny's wife, Sita, and 3 girls from surrounding houses. Naveen tried. "Imagine if someone told you that you can't take a shit all day because you're a man, and somebody might see you taking a shit. You'd totally freak out, right?" "Well, that's what we get told, because we're women. And when we are allowed to take a shit, when the sun goes down, we have to clamber around the rocks, and do it in some miserable fucking place in the total dark, because if we carry a torch, someone might see that we're taking a shit. And women get molested, out there in the dark. There's crazy guys hanging around. Guys who don't mind that the place is full of shit. Guys who actually prefer it that way. I'm not kidding, and I'm not putting up with it. I waited till dark to take a shit, and I'm not doing that again. I'm the fuck out of here, and that means tonight. I'm leaving." Naveen was considering whether to say I again. He looked at Didier. Didier looked at me. I looked at the fascinating knot on the edge of a bamboo support pole. There was a commotion, and Johnny rushed in from one of the narrower lanes we used for shortcuts. He saw us and stopped. His mouth was open. His hands were out in front of him, as if he was holding a branch. "What is it, Johnny?" Sita asked, in Marathi. I can't, Johnny, what's up?" I asked. He was stiff, as if he was ready to run somewhere. His face struggled. Sita went to him, and led him away. After a minute she returned, and called Naveen and me to her. Didier and the girls remained with Diva. "What the fuck is going on?" Diva said. "I'm leaving." "Hello? Did everybody forget that part?" Johnny was sitting in a plastic armchair, drinking from a bottle of chilled water. "They are all dead," he said. "Who's dead?" Naveen asked. "Anu's father, I mean Diva's father, and everyone at his house. Everyone. Even the gardeners. Even the pets. It was a horrible massacre." "When?" "Just now," Johnny said breathlessly. "Lynn, how can we tell that girl?" "I can't do it. I can't. Did you check the story?" "Yes, Naveen, of course I did. The police and press are going mad. It will be on the news, very soon, and then she will know anyway." "Should we just wait? What are we going to do?" "Turn on the radio, Johnny," I said. Sita clicked on the local news channel. Bad words like slaughter and massacre poured from the mouth of the radio. Mukesh Devnani and 7 of his household had been killed. The household pets had been killed. Nothing, and no one, was spared. Divya Devnani, the words said, again and again, the sole heir to the Devnani fortune, might also have been killed in the slaughter, the massacre, the slaughter. "We can't let her find out by hearing that," I said. "She's gotta be told." "I'll tell her," Naveen said, soft light in his eyes. "Good," I said. "It's tough on you, but it should be you. But not here. Let's go down to the rocks and the sea. There's a quiet place I know." She didn't protest when we walked through the slum, but as we stepped among the black stones on the shoreline, she tried to walk back into the slum. I think she sensed that bad news had found a place to drown itself. Naveen held her in his arms and told her. She broke the hug, walked a few uncertain steps on the rocky shore, and began to stagger away. Naveen followed her closely, catching her a few times when her bare feet slipped between the rocks. She stumbled on in a daze, her eyes blind, her legs moving in an instinct to flee suffering and fear. I'd seen it before, during a prison riot. A man so scared that he walked into a stone wall, again and again, always hoping for a door. Her mind was somewhere else, searching for the vanished world. Without her realizing it, Naveen led her in a wide arc, and back to me. She sat placidly, then, on a boulder, and very slowly came back to herself. When she did, she started crying uncontrollably. I left her with Naveen, who loved her, and returned to the huts to bring Sita and the girls to help. Sita was gone, but I found Carla and the Zodiac George instead. I looked at Didier. Diva's hiding place in the slum was a secret. "I thought it wise that she have some support," Didier said. "Especially since we shall all be spending the night here to support her, in this community facility, is it not so?" Carla kissed me hello. "How is she?" "It hit her like an axe handle," I said, "but she came around okay." "She's a tough girl. Good that you're here. She's with Naveen, down by the sea. I'd give them a while yet. She's pre-cut up, and Naveen knew her father." "Didier is too much of a gentleman to keep a secret," Didier said, "and leave Diva without friends, on a night of such terrible disaster as this." "And Didier is too scared of ghosts," Carla added, "to stay here alone." "Ghosts? Clearly," Didier said, "the place is haunted. I am sensing presences. Whatever the reason, I'm glad you're here." "It's been a while," she said, looking around at the slum huts. "Any special attractions this time? Cholera, typhoid?" There'd been a cholera outbreak years before, while I was living in the slum. Carla had come to help me fight it. She'd accepted the local rats, nursed helpless people, and cleaned diarrhea from earthen floors on her hands and knees. "It sounds crazy, I guess, but that time with you, back then, it's one of my happiest memories." "Mine, too," she said, glancing around. "And you're right. It's crazy. What are the girls doing to Diva's place?" "They're sprucing it up. Hoping to raise her spirits, I think. There are spirits being raised from the dead in this wild city tonight," she said. "That's for sure. Terrible business," Scorpio added, joining us. "Poor little thing," Gemini said. "We've kept her suite open, at the Mahesh. It's always there if she wants it. Just keep this place to yourselves, I said. Johnny and the others are taking a risk. Don't let anyone know about Diva. Are we good? Good as gold, mate, Gemini replied. Yes, Scorpio hedged. Unless someone is forcing me to tell. What's that supposed to mean? Well, suppose somebody started hitting me, to get me to tell, then I would tell. So, I can only promise confidentiality up to the point of physical harm. I looked at Gemini. It's one of Scorpio's rules, he shrugged. And a good one, Scorpio added. If everyone in the world spilled their guts at the first sign of violence, there'd be no torture anymore. Snitch world, Carla said. I think you're onto something, Scorp. A man came through the lanes toward us, wheeling a bicycle laden with parcels. Ah, Didier cried. The relief supplies. The man unloaded a sponge mattress, a suitcase, a folding card table, 4 folding canvas stools and 2 sacks of booze from the bicycle. I looked at the booze. It is for Diva, Didier said, catching my eye as he was counting the bottles. The girl will need to get very drunk tonight, if on no other night in her life. Alcohol isn't the answer to everything, Didier. Diva came out of the shadows suddenly. I need to get very drunk, she said. Didier stared his told you so at me. Will you? Diva said, my strange new friends, because none of you are my actual friends, and my actual friends aren't here, and I may never see them again, like my father. Will you help me to get very drunk, and clean me up when I get sick, and put me to bed safely, when I don't know what's going on anymore? There was a pause. Of course, Didier said. Come here, sweet injured child. Come here to Didier, and we shall cry into everybody's beer together, and spit into the eyes of fate. She did cry, of course. She ranted, waved her arms, shouted, paced the little hut, tripped on the patchwork blankets, and called the girls in to dance with her. When the ululating voices and handclap music reached a peak, she began to fall. Naveen caught her quickly and carried her to the bed of blankets, her arms falling at her sides like broken wings. She slowly curled her knees into her heart and slept. Sitting vigil in the next hut, Didier played poker with Naveen and the Zodiac Georges. It wasn't a pretty game to watch. Scorpio never saw a crooked card, Didier and Gemini never played him a straight one, and Naveen couldn't take his mind from the sleeping girl in the hut next door. I looked in on Diva. Several of the neighbor girls were sleeping in the hut to keep Diva company. One girl of 18, named Anju, was cuddling the socialite's shoulders in sleep. Another girl had her arm over Diva's belly. 3 girls snuggled in close to them. Somebody's little brother was sleeping against their feet. I trimmed the wick on the kerosene lantern to keep it alight, and lit a mosquito coil and a sandalwood incense stick from the flame. I set the coil and incense on a stand on top of the metal cabinet, and pulled the light plywood door shut on its rope hinges. Through narrow lanes of sleeping trust I walked back to the rocks and the sea, as black as the sky. I stood watching and listening. In that spot Diva had heard, and realized, that she'd lost everything. When I stood on the front wall of a prison, between the gun towers, I felt calm. All the terror drained from me, because I knew that if the guards shot me, I'd fall on the right side of the wall. When I slid down my electric cord rope to freedom and started running, the calm left me, and the realization of what I'd lost hit me so hard that I couldn't stop my hands from shaking for weeks. But I'd chosen my exile, and Diva had hers forced on her. And it was too cruel, her father killed, and everyone else. It was the kind of too cruel that makes a survivor fall. I hoped that the young socialite, hiding in the real world, had friends who wouldn't let that happen when she returned to the unreal world. I heard a sound and turned to see Carla, standing on a rocky outcrop at the edge of the slum. She'd come to find me. She waved to me, and a stray wave broke high against the rocks nearby. White rivulets of water streamed over black boulders to the shore. A second wave garlanded the rocks with surf as I climbed back toward the light and love, one wet black stone at a time. I paused with her at the top, and for a while we watched the sea spilling on the shore of Diva's grief. We walked back past huts humming and murmuring sleep. Fathers sleeping outside to leave more room for the family inside, the silver moon bathing them in soft light. And we talked softly with Didier, the Georges and Naveen in the hut beside Diva's, all of us wanting to be close, in case she woke. Diva's Bombay would never be the same again. Some of the people she'd known before the tragedy would become true friends, and some would become strangers in press paradise. Either way, when she returned to her destiny, everything would be changed. Naveen was a Bombay boy, and maybe he understood that in ways we couldn't. But in our exile hearts, the island city was home for all of us. And we waited together, that vigilant night, until the scarlet dawn helped a new exile wake and struggle to the shore. Part 9. Chapter 51. The lull that followed the storm of Lisa's death and the massacre at the Devnani estate lasted for long, busy, peaceful weeks. I liked it. I'd seen enough storms for 1 year. Diva settled into her role as a slum girl, and the slum settled into its role as host to a diva. Neither of them had much choice. The girls in the slum were starstruck over Diva, so they formed a permanent honor guard. And the killers of Diva's father hadn't been identified, so Diva stayed in the safest place in the city. The newspapers still carried the story of the massacre and the missing heiress. A court-appointed CEO administered the group of companies owned by Diva's father, working with the various boards of directors until the heiress could be found. There were 25,000 people in the slum, and most of them knew who Diva was. Nobody called a reporter or tried to claim the reward. She was under the protection of the slum, and in that avalanche of huts and shoulder-width lanes she was Anu, one of their own. She was safe from thugs with guns or magazine deadlines. The Georges ran a semi-permanent party and fully permanent poker game from the top floor of the Mahesh Hotel. Celebrities who'd closed their windows at traffic signals, when they were poor fixtures of the city, spent more time in the penthouse parties than they did with their therapists. When the deputy mayor broke the bank, he declared the game a municipal recreation, exempting it from prosecution under gambling laws. When the ward tax collector won a similar pot, the poker game was registered as a charity. And when the prettiest starlet in Bollywood won 6 hands in a row, cleaning out everyone except the bank, she made the game so hot that one Bollywood actor after another tried, and failed, to restore male pride by beating her record. For his part, Didier applied himself to the Lost Love Bureau with surprising diligence. He rose early, something so shocking that I jumped with fright the first time I saw him bright and active at 8 in the morning. Didier had always said that an hour of sunlight a day is enough for anyone, and the hour before sunset was the only sunlight worth having. The morning version of the night person I knew was strange, at first. He was punctual, he worked, he even told jokes. You know, Naveen said, a few weeks after the bureau had opened for business, I'm so glad that you put Didier and me together. He's a hard-working stiff, if you'll pardon the expression. Maybe, I don't know, you're just nostalgic. It isn't nostalgia if the first version is better. I don't want Didier to get corporate on me. The new Didier did get corporate and detectives seriously, and business at the bureau was brisk. He put an advertisement for the Lost Love Bureau in the biggest daily newspaper, one of Ranjit's newspapers, offering a reward for information on the whereabouts of Ranjit, the missing owner of Ranjit Media, a lost love. The notice didn't bring any new leads, but it got everyone in town talking about the Lost Love Bureau, and it brought more than a dozen clients, each one clutching a file of photographs and police reports on missing loved ones. And when 2 of the missing loves were found in as many weeks, due to Didier's street connections and Naveen's deductive skills, the bureau attracted more clients, all of them willing to pay cash in advance. Carla was right, of course. A market is a need, serving itself. Lost loves, forgotten or abandoned by overstretched police departments, are a constant ache in the heart, no less for the cops themselves, and a need that demands to be served. The bureau did well. Lost loves were found, and reunited with the hearts that couldn't stop searching for them. Vincent and Ranveig dropped in at Gemini George's parties from time to time. Vincent was happy, but never left Ranveig's side unless she sent him away, or told him to wait somewhere. The girl with the ice in a blue glass eyes seemed to have accepted the death of her boyfriend. She never mentioned him to me again. But while that ghost might have slipped away on a river of acceptance, some shadow remained in the young face. It was as if every changing expression or movement of a hand was clouded by irresolution. Nevertheless, she looked healthy and well. And she'd taken to dressing as Carla did, in a thin sheath of salwar kameez and tight cotton leggings. It suited her, with her hair pulled back into a high ponytail. And when she smiled happily and openly, as she did from time to time, leaves of doubt parted, and a bright sky of what she could become shone through. In the mysterious absence of Ranjit, the proprietor, Kavita Singh was promoted from banner journalist to deputy editor of the flagship newspaper. The fact that Carla had a deciding proxy vote in Ranjit media was influential. The fact that Kavita's columns were the most popular in the city was decisive. Within 2 weeks under Kavita's creative hand, the newspaper took a new turn, not left or right, but straight up into something else. The mood was upbeat. Bombay was a great, exciting place to live. Enough of this comparing ourselves to other places shit, she wrote in her first editorial. Open your eyes and see how wonderful this gigantic social experiment you're living in is, and see how much real love keeps it going. People loved it. Sometimes, people born in a place need to have someone wake its beauty for them, and Kavita's editorial started a fire in every Mumbaiker's heart. A fire of pride that none of them knew they'd prepared inside themselves, until Kavita lit it. The newspaper's circulation increased by 9%. Kavita was a hit. Carla laughed, long and happily, when the Civic Pride campaign became a trend that tumbled into a cascade of social activities across the city. I didn't ask her why, and she didn't tell me. She moved into the rooms next to mine and transformed them, during a week of deletions and deliveries. Her 3 rooms, a living room, a bedroom and a wardrobe corridor like mine, became a Bedouin tent. Waves of sky blue and white muslin, fixed from the light fittings in the center of each room, hid the ceilings. The lights were stripped away and replaced by old railway lanterns. She took all the furniture out of the rooms, except for the bed, and a writing table in the living room. She bought the table from the music store downstairs and had the legs sawn off, so that she could sit at it cross-legged in the middle of the floor. She covered every linoleum inch of that floor, even the bathroom, with Turkish and Iranian carpets. They were lying on top of one another as if they'd exhausted themselves, wrestling for a place of prominence at her feet. The balcony that looked out on Metro Junction, and connected with mine, was draped in red silk saris, softening the white heat of day to cooling troughs and stripes of crimson. There weren't any sleepovers, but it was okay. It was heaven, in fact, the happiest days I'd known since I'd thrown my life in a gutter of shame, 9 years before. Freedom and happiness and justice and even love are all parts of the same whole, peace, within. The first time I put fear into someone to get money for drugs, I crossed a line I'd drawn in the earth of my own life. But the shovel fell from my hand when Carla moved into the Amritsar hotel, and for a while I stopped digging graves of guilt. We ate breakfast, lunch and dinner together almost every day. We did the work we had to do separately, but got together every minute we could. When we were free, we rode all the way around the island city. When she felt like it, Carla drove her car, with Randall helping himself to a soda in the back. We saw a couple of movies, visited friends, and went to a few parties. But any night together, every night together, she went back to the Bedouin tent alone, locking all those locks I'd put on her door. She was driving me crazy, of course, but in the best possible way. People differ in things like this, I know, but for me it isn't how long you wait for something that counts, it's the quality of the wait. And hours alone with Carla every day was a quality wait. Sometimes, in all that quality waiting, very occasionally, I found myself thinking about punching a new air vent in the wall of my room. And sometimes, being only a meter away from her behind a connecting wall every night, twisted the guitar string pretty tight. Mind you, there was always the black market, to wind the string tighter. Crime is a demon, Didier once said, and adrenaline is his drug of choice. Every crime, even a little crime like black market money changing, comes with a measure of adrenaline. The people you're doing business with are at least a little dangerous, the cops are more than a little dangerous, and every crime has its own species of predator and prey. Black market money changing was all but legal in South Bombay in those years, operating openly in every second Colaba cigarette shop. South Bombay had 210 cigarette shops, all of them licensed by the municipal authority and the Sanjay Company. I ran 14 of them, bought from Didier, and sanctioned by Sanjay. It was usually a safe trade, but criminals, by definition, are violently unpredictable. I never took Carla on my rounds. I did one round between breakfast and lunch, another after lunch, and a late-night scout of the shops before sleep. It was important for the boss to be seen. Running a crime franchise requires a sophisticated degree of cooperation, usually bought, and clearly defined roles and rules. I provided the finesse money. The Sanjay Company defined the roles and enforced the rules. But every trader changing black money at the street level has his own measure of pride. Rebellion, from frustration or fear, is a constant possibility. The defection of even one of my money changers would bring swift punishment from Sanjay, but it would also cost me the franchise. Making such uprisings impossible, by keeping the shopkeepers between fear and friendship, was my job. Crime is futile, and when you understand that, you actually understand quite a lot of it. The Sanjay Company was the castle on the hill, with a moat full of crocodile gangsters, and Sanjay was the feudal lord. If he wanted a girl, he took her. If he wanted a man dead, he killed him. Because I'd purchased a franchise in the bazaar, that made me a kind of robber baron, and the shopkeepers were the serfs. They had no rights but those granted by the company. Crime is a medieval metropolis running parallel to the shining city, complete with absolute monarchy and public executions. And as a robber baron, riding from serf to serf on my steel pony, I had the right to assert my authority. The first skill in running a crime franchise is projecting an air of unchallengeable entitlement. If you don't believe it yourself, no one else on the street will. They're too smart. You have to own it, and own it in a way that stops people thinking about challenging you. In Bombay, that involves a lot of yelling and the occasional slap, usually over trivial things, until the air is clear and your voice is the last and the loudest. After that, it's a matter of observation. This one chews pawn. This one hates pawn. This one listens to holy songs from a speaker in the shape of King Kong. This guy likes boys. This guy likes girls. This guy likes girls too much. This guy is confident when he's alone, and this one cowers until his confederates arrive. This one drinks, thinks, smokes, chokes, peeps, talks, walks, and this one is the only one who'll still be standing toe to toe with you, till the last thrust of the knife. You hear what happened to Abhijit? Francis, my Regal Circle money changer, asked, when I pulled up beside him. Yeah, Abhijit was a street kid, hustling tourists on the strip. He tried to run a police roadblock too fast on a stolen scooter. He crashed into a stone bridge support, and the bridge didn't give way. Bloody little prick, Francis said, handing me the pickup money. He's annoying my mind more, now that he's dead, than he did when he was alive. And when he was alive, he was the most annoying prick in the world. He's annoying you so much that you're light, Francis, I said, checking the money he gave me. What light, Baba? He said, raising his voice loud enough for the other traders near him to hear. I looked around at the faces on the street. Don't do this, Francis. I'm not doing anything, Baba, he shouted. You are accusing me, and... I grabbed him by the collar and dragged him toward an alley, a few steps away. My shop. Fuck the shop. I shoved him into the alley. Let's do it, I said. Let's do what? You're cheating me, in front of your friends. Now we can be honest, alone. Where's the money? Baba, you. I slapped him. I didn't. I slapped him harder. In my shirt, he said. Your money is inside my shirt. There was a lot of money inside his shirt. I took the money he'd skimmed and left the rest. I don't care where you get your money, Francis, so long as you don't skim it from me. And you'll never make a show in front of your friends again. You see that, right? It's an ugly thing, raw power. Ugly enough to scare away scavengers. And it's an ugly job, sometimes, keeping street criminals in line. They need to know that reaction will always be fast and violent, and they need to fear it. If they don't, they all turn on you, and then things get bloody. I did the rounds until I had enough foreign money to knock on the door of the Black Market Bank in Ballard Pier. Black bankers aren't criminals. They're civilians who commit crimes. By staying on the safe side of the line, they don't risk real prison time. They keep a low profile, when their wealth would bring them into the A-list, because the money's more important. And they're scrupulously apolitical. They hold black money for any party, whether in power or not. The Sanjay Company used the Black Bank at Ballard Pier, and so did the Scorpions. But a lot of cops kept their loot there, and some heavy hitters in the armed services, and the politicians, of course. There was construction money, sugar baron money, oil money, and slush fund money. In one way or another, it was the best protected bank in town. The bank cared for its customers in return. Whenever one of them messed up, the bank made the mess subside, for a fee. Each scandal was tagged and bagged and locked in the vault. There was more dirt in the Black Bank at Ballard Pier, it was said, than undeclared gold. Everyone in town had something to gain from the bank's invisible hand, and everyone had something to lose if the hand became a fist. The bank was so swollen with secrets and secret money that it was too crooked to fail. For small hustlers like me, given access to a small sub-branch window, the Black Bank was a convenient way to hand in my US dollars and other currencies, take the equivalent in black rupees, and let the bank forward the foreign cash to the South Bombay Buyers Syndicate. Nobody but partners with too much to lose knew who the buyers were. Some said that a wild bunch of movie producers and actors had set up the syndicate. One rumor insisted that it was a Bombay chapter of the Masonic Lodge. Whoever they were smart. They controlled 80% of the black dollars in the South, made more profit than anyone in the chain, and never risked an hour behind bars. After costs, in my small operation, I cleared 20,000 rupees a month from the money changer operation. If I'd still been living in the slum, it would have made me a king. On the street, it was pin money. Once crime starts to pay, you soon learn that the key to survival isn't making money, it's keeping it. Every black rupee you make has 100 hands reaching out to take it away. And you can't call the cops, because the cops are often the ones taking it away. And when the cash you make comes in bundles, and you don't have any burning desire to spend it, because you're a rainy day kind of a guy, few decisions are more important than where you decide to keep it. The first rule is not to put it all in one place. If things get bad, and you've got to give something up, a plump reserve is a good idea. I kept some at home as escape money. I left some with Tito, Didier's man. He gave me friend rates of 2%. He still called it 10%, but only charged me 2. Forgive me, he said, when he muttered 10% again, out of habit. My mind is angry with me. Listen, Tito, if someone comes calling, telling you that I'm tied up in a cellar somewhere, and being tortured, and uses the code 300 Spartans, just give him the money, okay? Done, he said, for 10%. Chapter 52. Every woman of a certain age is automatically an auntie in India. Half Moon Auntie, who ran a black bank in the fish market, was maybe 50 years old, and so voluptuous in her seductive powers that no man could stay more than 10 minutes in her company, it was said, without proposing to her. And Half Moon Auntie, a widow not in mourning, did everything in her considerable range of talents to make the minutes of any transaction roll into double digits. So far, I'd always been a 9-minute guy with Half Moon Auntie. Deal done, and out of there. Hi, Half Moon Auntie, I said, handing a paper-wrapped bundle of rupees to her assistant clerk, sitting behind a fish counter. How are you? She kicked a plastic chair at me. It slid to a stop at my feet. She'd done it before. She did it every time, in fact. Decades of fish oil, soaked into the concrete, made the surface almost frictionless. It was hard to walk around. It was hard to keep standing up, in fact. It was as if the dead fish, soaked into the stone around Half Moon Auntie's rope bed, wanted to make us fall down. And people did, every day. I took the chair, knowing that there was no such thing as a fast getaway from Half Moon Auntie's black bank. I was sitting at the end of a very long stainless steel cutting table. It was one of several in the fish market, an area the size of a football field under waves of slanted tin and clotted skylight crests. Work had stopped for the day, and the shouting had shrunk into a silence that was, perhaps, like the gasps of fish, drowning in our air, just as we drown in theirs. I could hear Half Moon Auntie swallowing. I could hear the clock on the wall ticking. I could hear Auntie's assistant, counting the money slowly, carefully. It was dark, but the shade was hotter than the sunny street outside. The smell had been strong enough to close my mouth, at first, but it began to settle into a low hum of fish not in the sea. Someone started to run a hose at the far end of the market. Blood and pieces of dead things floated past in a gutter chiseled into the concrete floor. Beside the gutter was Half Moon Auntie, standing in her slippers, her rope bed covered by a hand-sewn quilt as silver as the fins of a mirror fish. So, Shantaram, she said, they say that a woman has your heart. That's true, Half Moon Auntie, I replied. How are you doing? She put her arms out to her sides. Very, very slowly she lowered herself onto the rope bed, her arms extended at her sides. Then she dripped her feet out of the slippers, and her legs went into action. I didn't know if it was yoga or contortionism, but Half Moon Auntie's legs were pythons, searching for something to constrict. They moved left and right, north and south, twirling above her head and extending wide enough to ford a stream, before settling underneath her on the silver quilt, the prehensile feet tucked up against Olympian thighs. It took about 30 seconds. If it had been a show, I would have applauded. But it wasn't a show, and I wasn't a customer. She began to roll her shoulders. So, how's business, Half Moon Auntie? I tried. Too late. She leaned toward me slowly, arching her back to feline fluidity. Her breasts fell into view, half a moon tattooed on each globe, and she didn't stop until the moon was full. Her exceptionally long hair fell to the bed around her folded knees, closing a curtain on the moon, and spilling almost to the blood-stained floor. She raised her eyes, threatening me with mysteries and things we shouldn't know, then curled her arms backwards around her until her hands clasped her own neck, the fingers wriggling like anemones, spawning in the light of that inverted moon. No one can say she didn't have her charm. But I liked her, more than I liked her famous routine. Half Moon Auntie was always armed, which is invariably interesting, no matter which way you look at it. She had a small automatic pistol, presented to her by the chief commissioner. I wanted to know why. I wanted to know the story. I knew that she'd fired it twice, both times to save someone being bullied by thugs from other areas of the city. She read fortunes in people's hands, and made more money as a sorceress than she did as a fisherwoman and black banker combined. And she won the girls' wrestling championship in the fisherman's slum 3 years in a row. It was a girls-only event, strictly cordoned off by faces of husbands and brothers and fathers, their backs to the girls who wrestled alone. No one ever got to see it but the girls who fought until they found a champion. I wanted to know about the event. I wanted to know the story of how the commissioner gave her the gun. What I didn't want was a game, with a 10-minute deadline. A woman always finds a way, she said, straightening up and glancing at the clock. At least once, when you are with this woman who has taken your heart, you will be thinking of me, while you make love to her. See, Half Moon Auntie, you're wrong. That's not gonna happen. Are you so sure? She asked, holding my stare. Completely. With all due respect, Half Moon Auntie, my girlfriend kicks your ass. You're a lovely woman, and all that, but my girlfriend is a goddess. And if it comes to an actual fight, she'd kick your ass there, too. She'd beat both of us together, with change, and have us thanking her for it, after she did it. I'm crazy about her, Auntie. She held my stare for a couple of seconds, testing me, maybe, then slapped her thighs and laughed. I liked it so much that I laughed with her. All correct, her assistant called out, putting my bundle of rupees in a metal bin, locking it, and logging the amount in his ledger. You're not the first to say such words, Half Moon Auntie said. But not many do. A few. Most of them beg for their free show, and create lies, as reasons to consult with me. To be fair to them, you put on a great show, Auntie. She laughed. Thank you, Shantaram. That's how the legend of my palm reading skills began. An adulterous husband invented it, so that he could hold my hand, and watch the phases of the moon. Some of them sweat with how much they need it. Even people you know. Your friend Didier sits with me every week. I'll bet he does, I laughed. Why do you do it, Half Moon Auntie? I suddenly realized that the question might hurt her. I'm sorry, I said quickly. It was a writer's question, so, you know, probably unforgivably rude. She laughed again. Shantaram, you can only ask that question when you have the power to do it. So, when you have the power to do it, ask yourself. My girlfriend is gonna love that line. Bring her with you, next time, she threatened. What if she crosses 10 minutes, and proposes to you? Of course she will propose to me, and so will you, one day. I thought we covered that, I frowned, not understanding. You write stories, Shantaram, she smiled. One day you will write about me, and that will be a declaration of love. And this woman who has your heart will propose to me, out of happy love, nothing more. Isn't every love happy love? No, she laughed. There is your kind of love. You, and the few like you, who have become my dearest friends. I don't want unhappiness in love, I said, frowning. I don't want unhappiness at all. I'm talking about the real thing, she replied. The real thing is always more painful and more rewarding than anything less. That's very confusing, I said. But I'm so glad we had this talk, Half Moon Auntie. If I've been unwittingly rude, and you're not gonna shoot me, please give me about 2 minutes head start. It'll take me that long to get to the door on this surface. Go. Now, Shantaram, she laughed. You are a VIP customer from this day. May the goddess keep your weapons sharp and your enemies afraid. I slowly skated away from her, sliding and slipping my way across Slaughter's floor until I reached the golden arch of sunlight leading to the open market beyond. While I scraped my boots dry, I looked back at her, doing yoga exercises on the bed. One foot was raised high and enclosed in her palm, like a flame resting in the space above her head. Half Moon Auntie. Businesswoman, gangster and mistress of minutes. She was right, I thought. Carla probably would propose to her. My third bank, my Didier Reserve, was the floating poker game that Gemini George ran from their penthouse apartment. Games that turn over a lot of money need a bank to fund the house. The house takes a percentage of the game, win or lose, but the house also plays, because the margin you win, if you play well, is always bigger than the vig paid for running the game. The best way to keep a house bankable is to have a good dealer who knows when to fold, and another player in the game, who appears independent but is actually giving his winnings to the house. Even with improved odds like that, it's always possible for some golden child to walk in and break the bank. It happens. Sometimes, it happens 3 nights in a row. But a golden child event is rare enough to make a well-run game pay off, 5 nights from 7, and Gemini George knew how to run a game. I put money into the bank, with Didier and Gemini, and the 3 of us primed the pump for the poker games. My winnings, on a weekly basis, were about equal to the interest I would have earned on my money in a well-run fund. Gemini had given up cheating. It was a mandatory requirement, mandated by Didier and me. We had to run a straight game, or there was no point. And Gemini did it. He played every game for the house as straight as the bridge between fear and anger. His honesty and skill won him a lot of new friends, and won a lot of money for us. Gemini needed the game, because his millionaire friend, as it turned out, was stingy with $1. Scorpio paid all the bills for the penthouse floor at the Mahesh, because it was the only place in Bombay that he felt safe, and he didn't feel safe enough to leave the city and go somewhere else, where millionaires live in safety. But he scanned every receipt and invoice for minute economies, and frequently found them, scraping pennies from accounts measured in thousands. He refused to fund Gemini's parties. Gemini told everyone to bring their own stimulants, and the parties rolled on. They were cheaper and gaudier, and much more popular. The hotel became a place where famous people met infamous people, and every bar and restaurant was crowded. Scorpio restricted Gemini to a limited expense account at the hotel, for food, drink, and services. He also gave him $200 in cash every week. Gemini made $200 in cash every hour with us, in the game, and played in a trance of elegant dexterity. He was confident. He lost with a joke or a line from a song, and won without pride. I thought of setting up a support group, a sort of AA, for people like me, who can't stop cheatin', Card Cheats Anonymous, you know, but the trouble is, you wouldn't be able to trust no one. Not when it actually came down to cards. Know what I mean? Come on, Gemini. A cynic is someone angry at his own soul, and you're no cynic. He squinted on the thought. I love you, mate, he said, smiling to himself. Love you too, brother. And anyway, you did it, man. You cold turkey-ed cheating at cards, and you're playing straight, and better than ever. Took some doin', I tell ya, he shuddered. I turned to books, at first. I hit Keats pretty hard and got very sad trippy, then I got totally Kerouac, as out of it as a drunken chimp and sayin' the first thing that came into me addled mind. I stumbled into Fitzgerald, staggered out of Hemingway, got totally Deronda with George Eliot, stoned with Virginia Woolf, batty with Dejuna Barnes and deranged with Durrell, but then I switched back to movies, and 3 days of Humphrey Bogart had me right as rain. Quite a support group, Gemini. Yeah, nothing like writers and actors for company, is there, when you're at the end of your rope. You got that right. I'm glad it worked out for you. He looked at me, lifting aside a curtain of reticence. It's a nice view, from the other side of the line, Lynn. I never thought I'd say this, but it almost feels good not to cheat. That's the spirit. You think so? It feels dodgy, sometimes, being straight. Know what I mean? Sure, I laughed. Keep it up. You look great. An abundance of chance and a scarcity of sunlight wear very well on you, card champion. How's it going with Scorpio? That bad, huh? He keeps to himself way too much, Lin. He's all alone in the presidential suite, most of the time. I'm not allowed in. Not allowed in? Nobody is, except the staff. He eats most of his meals in there. I mean, if he had some lovely piece of womanhood in there with him, I'd be guarding the door. But he doesn't, mate, and the two of us, Scorpio and me, we were never alone. Maybe he just needs a timeout. We split everything, shared every mouthful of food, down to counting out the peanuts in a packet and sharing every one of them, even and fair. We argued about everything, all the time, but we never ate a thing without the other one there. We haven't broke bread, so to speak, for 3 days. I'm worried about him, Lin. Gemini, has he thought about leaving Bombay? If he has, he doesn't talk to me about it. Why? He's nervous, being rich. He needs to move on, and he probably won't move on, unless you move him on. Move him where? Anywhere that millionaires live. They tend to stick together, and they know how to look after themselves. He'll be safe there, and he'll get some peace of mind. I'm having enough trouble living with one millionaire. I couldn't handle a whole suburb of them. Then take him to New Zealand. Buy a farm, near a forest. New Zealand? Beautiful country, beautiful people. Great place to vanish in. I'm so worried, Lin. You know, I actually lost a game that I should have won, yesterday. You played about 300 games, yesterday. Yeah, but I'm afraid of losing my grip, you know? I feel so helpless to help him, and I love him, mate. I should have shut up. I couldn't know what my suggestion would bring to the Zodiac George. If I had 3 wishes, one of them would be to know when to shut up. Maybe, I don't know, you should just get him outside. Take him for a walk around the hotel. It'd be just like old times, except with bodyguards. It might shake him awake. That's not a bad idea, Gemini said thoughtfully. I could trick him into it. Or invite him into it. No, I'll have to trick him into it, he said. I'd have to trick him into drinking water in the desert, because he'd think the CIA put it there. But I've got a plan. Please don't tell me, I said, leaving my bundle of cash for the poker game bank and heading for the door. I'm allergic to plans. I should have worried, for my friends. I know that now. Like so many people in the city, I thought that Scorpio's money solved all their problems. I was wrong. The money was a menace, as it often is, that threatened their friendship and their lives. Chapter 53. I left the hotel and rode to the Starlight restaurant on Chowpatty Beach. The restaurant was an illegal pop-up on a small, appropriated stretch of beach near the beginning of the seawall. It had been running for 3 months. A movie star and a local entrepreneur had the idea to create a restaurant as a gift to the city on a derelict section of public beach, so they created a gone fragment, complete with palm trees, thatched table umbrellas and sand for open toes. The food was excellent, and the service was efficient and friendly. But the fact that it was completely illegal, and likely to close any time, added a zest so special to the flavor that the city officials charged with closing down the illegal structure waited days for a table. The local entrepreneur, whose eccentric, ephemeral gift to the city cost him a lot of money that he knew he'd never recover, was a friend of mine. Carla was waiting at a table he'd reserved for me. She stood up. Light from a candle on the table lifted her face, as a gentle hand might have done. She kissed me and hugged me. She was dressed in a red cheongsam, split to the hip on one side. Her hair was pulled up in a shell of curves and waves, held in place by a poison dart from a blowgun, which she'd modified with a red jewel at the end. She was wearing red gloves. She was beautiful, and it was a beautiful night, until she said the name Concannon. Come again? Concannon wrote me a letter, she repeated, 4 green queens on me. And you tell me this now? The other stuff we talked about was more important. I want to read it, I said. It was the wrong approach, but I was angry. Concannon got me that way. No. No? No. Why not? I burned it, she said. Can we go somewhere where I can't blow cigarette smoke on anybody but you? We rode to the top of Malabar Hill and a view of the restaurant we'd left, on the strip of coast below. Lights in the curve of Marine Drive garlanded the belly of the great ocean, the mother of all. She blew cigarette smoke on me, for a while, and then went easy on me with 2 green queens. What's going on? What isn't going on, Carla? We were sitting on a stone monument, high enough for a view through trees to the sea. Another couple sat in the shadows a few meters away, murmuring quietly. Cars and motorcycles passed slowly, preparing themselves for the long, curving road skirting the city zoo, and leading steeply to Kemp's Corner Junction. The smell of lions in cages followed that road, and the sound of their grieving roars. Cops passed every 30 minutes or so. Some very rich people lived nearby. A limousine slowed to a creep as it passed us. The windows were blacked out. I moved gently against Carla, feeling her body, her weight, ready to push her aside and reach for a knife. The car passed, continuing on down Lion Sorrow Hill. Why did you burn the letter? If your body gets infected, and it's more than your immune system can cope with, you fight it off with antibiotics. It was toxic, so I burned it in an antibiotic fire. Now it's gone. But it's not. It's still inside your memory. Everything is still inside your memory. You don't forget anything. What did the letter say? It's already in 2 memories, his and mine, she said. Why should it be in 3? She drew in a quick breath. I knew that quick breath. It wasn't oxygen, it was ammunition. She was getting angry, and ready to let me have it. It concerns both of us, I said, holding up my hands. I get it, that a letter's a private thing. But this is about an enemy. You've gotta see that. He wrote it, hoping that I'd show it to you. It's a trick. He's taunting and tormenting you, not me. Exactly why I want to know what he wrote to you. Exactly why you shouldn't. It's enough that I tell you it wasn't nice, and that you need to know what he's doing. I'd never hide it from you, because you need to know, but I don't want you to read it. You've gotta see that. I didn't see it, and I didn't like it. For all we knew, Concannon had a hand in Lisa's death. He'd tried to crack my skull. I didn't feel betrayed. I just felt left out. She'd left me out of one too many of her games and schemes. We rode home, and kissed goodnight. It wasn't good. I couldn't fake it. I was unhappy and disappointed. I almost made it into my room, before she stopped me. Spit the long face out, she said. What's the matter? She was standing in the entrance to the Bedouin tent. I was standing in the entrance to my monk's cell, the room of an ex-convict, ready to leave in a motorcycle kick. Concannon's letter, I said. I think you should have shown it to me. Like this, it feels like a weird secret that I don't want you to keep. A secret? She said, looking me up and down, and tilting her head. You know, I've got a pretty busy schedule tomorrow. Uh-huh. And the day after tomorrow. And then, too. Wait a minute, I said. Isn't it me? Who's supposed to be angry? You're never the one who's supposed to be angry. Not even when I'm right? Especially not when you're right. But you're not right about this. And now we're both pissed. You don't have the right to be mad at me, Carla. Concannon's involved with Ranjit and Lisa. Nothing about him should be secret. Why don't we leave it at that, she said. Before we say something we'll regret. I'll stay in touch. I'll slip a note under your door if I'm feeling low. She shut the door and locked the locks. I went to my room, but Abdullah knocked on my door a minute later, disturbing my angry pacing. He told me to get ready and meet him on the street. He was parked near my bike with Comanche and 3 others from the company, all of them on motorcycles. I kicked my bike to life and followed Abdullah and the others south toward Flora Fountain, where we stopped to allow a water tanker to pass through an intersection, Elephant Slow. You don't want to know where we are going? Abdullah asked me. No, I'm just happy to be riding with you, man. He smiled and led us through Kalaba to Sassoon Dock, near the entrance to the Navy base. We parked in front of a wide, shaded entrance gate, closed for the night. Abdullah sent a kid to buy chai. The men settled on their bikes, each with a different view of the street. Fardeen was killed, Abdullah said. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi rajiun, I said, speaking calm words. We come from God, and to God we return, but feeling shocked and hurt. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, Abdullah replied. May Allah forgive the bad deeds of the returning soul, and accept the good ones. Ameen, I answered. Fardeen was so polite and considerate, and such a fair arbiter of others' disputes that we knew him as the politician. He was a brave fighter and a loyal friend. Everyone but Fardeen had at least one enemy within the Brotherhood of the Sanjay Company. Fardeen was the only man we all loved. If the Scorpion Company had killed Fardeen as a payback for the burning of their house, They'd picked the one man in Sanjay's group whose death punctured every heart with a poisoned sting. Was it the Scorpions? I asked. The other men with Abdullah, Comanche, Shah, Ravi and Tall Tony laughed a gasp, and it was a bitter thing. They took him between Flora Fountain and Shore Bazaar,